Observing the sheer number of foolish people around us, doesn't it seem like we're living in a matrix? Well, it's simpler than we think. We're living in a system, not the one they show us in movies. This one is built on ignorance, self-deception, and voluntary blindness. People walk around, unaware that they're trapped in it. They think they're free, but in reality, they're slaves to their own stupidity. And worse yet, they don't even know it. That's the real danger. It's not the loud, obvious fools. It's the ones who think they have it all figured out. They live in a delusion, trapped in their own bubble, convinced their ignorance is wisdom. They speak without thinking, act without listening, and blame without reflecting. And worst of all, they don't stop. They live their lives in a self-made cage, completely unaware. 7 things only a fool will say. 7 signs of weakness, ignorance, and refusal to grow. Verbal red flags. If you catch yourself saying any of these, stop. Kill the words before they kill your potential. The first of these deadly phrases is, "It's not my fault, it's everyone else who's the problem." This statement is a classic example of the victim mentality, where an individual refuses to take responsibility for their actions or circumstances. It's an excuse that avoids self-examination, denying the fact that our emotions, thoughts, and reactions are within our control. People who constantly blame others for their problems fail to realize that it's not the situations themselves, but their reactions to them, that are the true source of their distress. This attitude is rooted in passivity, where the individual remains helpless, waiting for external factors to change, rather than taking control of their own life. The Stoics, in contrast, believe that while we cannot control what happens to us, we always have control over how we respond to those events. Epictetus famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This quote highlights that our misery often comes not from external events, but from our desires and expectations. The Stoic view emphasizes that we should focus on managing our inner world, our thoughts and attitudes, rather than external circumstances. By taking responsibility for our responses, we move away from blaming others and instead focus on mastering ourselves. True freedom comes when we recognize that we can control our reactions, regardless of what others do or how the world behaves. Those who continually blame others find themselves stuck in a cycle of self-pity, unable to grow or learn from their experiences. Rather than owning up to their actions, they remain dependent on external factors to change, which often leads to frustration, anger, and dissatisfaction. In contrast, a Stoic mindset encourages self-awareness, self-discipline, and the ability to see challenges as opportunities for personal growth. Number 2, I don't care, it's not like it affects me anyway. This statement reflects emotional detachment and a lack of empathy, often used by individuals who refuse to acknowledge the feelings or struggles of others. It can stem from self-protection or selfishness. However, this indifference points to a deeper issue: the inability to connect with others on a human level, and a refusal to engage in the shared human experience of suffering, joy, and emotional vulnerability. Without empathy, people miss the opportunity to build meaningful relationships and truly understand the complexities of others' lives, which ultimately leads to isolation. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most respected Stoic philosophers, recognized the importance of empathy and human connection when he wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees." In this statement, he reminds us that we are all part of a greater whole, and the well-being of one is intricately linked to the well-being of others. The Stoics believe that an individual cannot thrive in isolation. True well-being is found in the recognition of our interconnectedness with others. By denying empathy, we also deny ourselves the opportunity to cultivate wisdom, kindness, and emotional growth. Our capacity for empathy helps us navigate life's challenges and grow as individuals who are not only wise, but also compassionate. When we become indifferent to the suffering of others, we stop recognizing the inherent dignity and value of human life. Stoicism teaches that our highest good comes not from selfishness, but from the virtue of acting in accordance with reason and caring for the common good. Indifference to others' suffering is not only morally irresponsible, but also denies the very essence of what it means to be human, to live in harmony with one another, to share in each other's burdens, and to work toward collective well-being. Number 3, why should I bother if I'm not going to get anything out of it? This mindset reflects transactional thinking, where one's actions are only seen as worthwhile if they lead to personal gain. The belief that one should only engage in something if it benefits them directly results in a life driven by self-interest rather than virtue. It's a shallow, narrow view of life, focused on short-term rewards and instant gratification, rather than long-term fulfillment and personal growth. This mindset causes individuals to miss out on the deeper meaning and joy that come from doing things for their own sake, without expecting anything in return. Aristotle, in Nicomachean Ethics, argued, "The good for man is an activity of the soul in accordance with virtue." This encapsulates the idea that the true purpose of life is to engage in virtuous actions, not for the rewards they bring, but because they align with our highest nature as human beings. When we act solely for personal gain, we miss the opportunity to grow in virtue. Stoicism teaches that the greatest rewards in life come from within, through the cultivation of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Acting out of duty, responsibility, or the desire to live virtuously is far more fulfilling than acting for selfish motives. By adopting the mindset of acting purely for personal gain, we reduce our actions to mere transactions, devoid of deeper meaning. The Stoics believe that focusing on external rewards is a dangerous trap that ultimately leads to dissatisfaction. Instead, by shifting our focus from immediate gratification to the pursuit of virtue for its own sake, we find true fulfillment and inner peace. Often, the most rewarding experiences in life come not from what we get, but from what we give, whether it's our time, effort, or compassion. Number 4, I want it now, and I don't care what happens. This statement reveals a fundamental impatience and lack of self-control, where the desire for immediate gratification overrides long-term consequences. This is often seen as a characteristic of immaturity, acting impulsively without considering the future or the impact on others. In a world where instant gratification is constantly available, the ability to delay satisfaction has become a rare and valuable skill. However, Seneca, one of the prominent Stoic philosophers, argued, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-control is the cornerstone of true freedom because it enables us to align our actions with our long-term values and goals, rather than being slaves to our impulses. The Stoics believe that living wisely requires the ability to control our desires and impulses. Epictetus stated, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Mastering our desires and focusing on what is truly necessary leads to inner peace. Impulsive behavior, on the other hand, often leads to regret, guilt, and a sense of being out of control. Delaying gratification and practicing patience allow us to make better decisions and ultimately lead to greater happiness and fulfillment in life. When we give in to every desire and demand for immediate satisfaction, we surrender our power to the moment. We become slaves to our whims and impulses, losing the ability to make thoughtful, wise decisions. The ability to delay gratification and exercise self-control is not just a Stoic virtue. It is essential for leading a meaningful and prosperous life. Number 5, if it doesn't go my way, I'm just going to quit. This statement reveals a lack of resilience and an avoidance of discomfort. It reflects an individual's preference for the easy path and a refusal to engage with the challenges and complexities of life. Life is full of obstacles, and it's easy to be swept away by the temptation to quit when things don't go as planned. However, Stoic philosophy teaches that obstacles are not to be feared or avoided, but embraced as opportunities for learning and growth. The Stoics placed immense importance on resilience and perseverance. Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." Nietzsche's philosophy highlights that hardship and suffering are not only inevitable, but necessary for personal growth. It is through facing struggles that we develop inner strength, resilience, and character. Similarly, Epictetus, a key Stoic philosopher, taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This reinforces the idea that the true power lies not in avoiding difficulties, but in how we respond to them. Challenges and setbacks are a part of life, and how we face them ultimately shapes our character. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, also believed that life's difficulties were opportunities to prove one's worth. In Meditations, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This emphasizes that every obstacle or challenge is an opportunity for action and growth. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, Stoicism encourages us to view them as stepping stones for action, development, and progress. Seneca elaborated further, stating, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." This perspective transforms our view of failure, not as something to avoid, but as a critical step toward becoming better. Number 6. Who cares if it's wrong, as long as I get what I want? This mindset reflects moral relativism and selfishness, where personal gain is prioritized over integrity or ethical considerations. It reveals an individual willing to disregard what is right simply to achieve their own goals. This often leads to a life of dishonesty, manipulation, and ethical compromise, pursuing success at any cost without regard for the impact on others. Plato warned against this approach in the Republic, stating, "The life which is unexamined is not worth living." Plato believed that a life guided by unchecked desires, without reflection on right and wrong, is ultimately unworthy of human potential. This quote serves as a reminder that pursuing personal goals at the expense of virtue will only lead to emptiness and dissatisfaction. The Stoics, too, emphasize the importance of living in accordance with virtue, rather than chasing external goals that compromise one's character. Marcus Aurelius reinforced this, saying, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This quote urges us to stop debating the concept of goodness and instead focus on embodying virtue in every action and decision. The Stoics recognized that achieving success through unethical means, whether through lying, cheating, or manipulation, only leads to inner turmoil and dissatisfaction. Seneca, in his letters, wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The desire for external rewards, especially when obtained unethically, leaves the individual spiritually impoverished. True success, according to Stoicism, comes from living a life of moral virtue, where the pursuit of goals is aligned with what is good and just. Number 7. I don't need to change. Everyone else should just accept me as I am. This statement reflects a refusal to engage in self-improvement and personal growth. It embodies an attitude of entitlement, where the individual expects others to accept them without effort or change. The desire to be accepted as we are, without making any effort to improve, rejects the principle of personal development and self-reflection. Carl Jung, one of the foremost psychologists of the 20th century, famously said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Jung believed that personal growth and self-actualization were essential for living a fulfilling life. To remain stagnant and unchanging is to deny oneself the opportunity to reach one's fullest potential. Jung's philosophy of individuation emphasizes that personal growth involves confronting various aspects of the self and integrating them. This requires honest self-reflection and a willingness to change. Personal growth is a lifelong journey, one that involves making changes, improving oneself, and learning from our mistakes. The refusal to change is a refusal to grow. Seneca echoed this notion when he wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The fear of change often holds us back from the transformative journey of self-improvement. This resistance to change is rooted in the fear of the unknown and the discomfort of confronting our weaknesses. The Stoics believed that change and self-improvement were not optional, but essential for living a virtuous life. Epictetus said, If you want to improve, be content to be laughed at, misunderstood, and judged by others, for the road to growth is never easy. The road to improvement is often difficult and uncomfortable. However, it is through this discomfort that we grow and become better versions of ourselves. To demand that others accept us without any effort to change is to deny the opportunity for self-evolution. By embracing change, we open ourselves to becoming the best versions of ourselves. And here's the twist. What if the system isn't some external force? What if it's the beliefs we hold, the words we speak, the excuses we make that keep us locked in place? What if the only thing standing between you and your true potential is the blind faith you've placed in your own delusions? You can choose to wake up. You can choose to stop repeating the same empty phrases, the same tired excuses, and start questioning the world you've built around yourself. But here's the thing. Once you start seeing through the lies, there's no going back. The truth is a dangerous thing. So, as you continue on this path, ask yourself, are you truly free, or are you just another player in someone else's game, blissfully unaware of the strings pulling at you from all directions? The real question is, who's pulling your strings? Maybe, if you subscribe to this channel, you'll start asking the kinds of questions that will lead you closer to the truth that's been hiding in plain sight all along.